So let's come right to the very beginning again, and we start in our resting position, and we go back into the rocking motion. So sink, and through we go. Just start to find yourself. Just letting your breathing find its own rhythm. How does it want to be with this? How does the movement want to happen from the Danchen? We'll do two more. And sinking into that right leg, up. And sink. Now bird flaps its wings, drawing that charge in just below the belt line and releasing. So each movement, of course, educates the other ones, and around and around. So this particular flicking is then affected by the wrist circles, taffy, and light at the top of the head, light at the temples. And so there's something of opening up the wrists that each of those movements do. And our last time, open. And of course the light at the top of the head and the light at the temples really looks at how your shoulders can kind of stay down and connected. And so that brings you back to movements like this, where you get a little bit more awareness of how you can just stay dropped perhaps a little bit more in your shoulders. And now we go into the first platter. Forward and back. So there's a real sense of difference in charge connection. As you go forward, you really feel that connection with the energetic movement through the heels of your hands, and then trailing back as you go backward. And then, very importantly, because this is our first forward stepping movement now that we're doing, is to really let that working from your leg transfer, the weight across your feet, all the way up to its effect in your lower back and into the Danchen, and just to let it awaken you. We'll do one more round. And back. And then the second side. Going forward over the front foot. And just really getting that sense of connection across the soles of your feet with the weight transfer, so they really feel how they're connecting to the ground. And then that kind of motion that comes from that contact then connects all the way through to how your hands feel engaged and how your Danchen feels engaged. And one more time around. And back. And then the platter variation. gather that charge and release it. And so this has got a real sense of substantiveness to it as you go forward and trailing back. Gathering. Just as you go past center line, the gathering really happens over that shoulder there. And one more time around. And release and back. Good. And then the second side, up, forward. Gathering forward, releasing as you come back. And just see if you can get the sense of how to drop into that rhythm of trailing back, coming around, now going forward, so that you get to take advantage of this kind of energetic connection that we're building as a community. Just moving the charge not just within yourself, but really creating a supportive energetic field that we all participate in. We'll do two more. Release, and one more time around. And back. Now we get to start to emphasize that core connection with the bass drum. So as your foot comes forward and your fingers come up at an angle toward the ceiling, just see how this particular hand movement helps you get a sense of organization in your body through the center as your hands start to find that connection between them with a more flat hand stance. All the way through, there's a connection here. This is not one where you just kind of build and release charge, but it really helps you to start to get that wrist connection that will pick up in the movements to follow. And one more time around, back, and then forward, and complete, close. And then the second side, gather that charge between your hands so you really get set up with the connection through the core, how it's going to affect you as you come forward from this side. Just keep on coming through the center. And back. I think I've just upgraded my operating system, and I think what it's done is reset my screensaver. So I've lost you folks here for a second. Let me just get this back there. I'll have to fix that later. Watching my little digital koi swimming around in their pond. All right, so now we go into our daughters. So your hands open up, we sink, and that left foot comes forward, and the left hand comes across on the inside. So right from here, there's a gathering of that charge again. It gets stronger as you come across the center, and then you draw down and release it. And then immediately it starts to gather again. There's this thing in Tai Chi Chih, and I think in general in Tai Chi, about not closing the wrists, so flexing forward, because it tends to, you can even experiment with it, but you'll see it tends to block off the charge. So when we come down, one of the things you can tend to do as you come down here is to kind of close your hands in, and it's really useful to keep those wrists fairly open, and that's why I talk about drawing down through the heels of your hands so that your wrists don't collapse and lose the charge connection as you draw down. And back, and we're going to come around one more time. Here I come forward and drawing down and then opening. And that opening provides space for me to step back into that space and come to a graceful resting position. And then the second side, we open with it again, step forward, and left hand on the inside. So such a lovely, subtle way of starting to work with tension through the shoulders, because even though the motion is happening primarily with wrists and movement through the elbows as you go back through, so these upper arms are really just kind of hanging out, there's all kinds of gentle, subtle movement that starts to happen through the shoulder blades as it gets affected by this movement. And the movement of charge through your core as your hands draw the charge together and then draw down towards, down through center. And we'll do two more of these. Opening, forward, and down. Just letting your breath be affected. How does it want to be with this? And back we come into that opening of space and close. Just letting that sink happen, and then daughter in the valley, so your hands come up, your foot comes forward, and now we once again gather that Nerf ball of energy charge and then release it as you come up. So gathering down, bringing up, and then releasing. Forward and back. And these are like the bigger picture pieces of this. As you start to get the feel and your sense of comfort with the movements, then you start to be able to do two very important things. One is keep on returning back around to all those spots of contact with the floor and the Dan Chen and connection through your hands, but also that bigger sense of how am I here? What's it like to be in this movement, in this moment, to really start to inhabit it more and to get the sense of how you're doing it in community. So this will be our last time, and we're going to come back and close. And that sense of doing the movement, really holding it within your whole being, and the sense that you're doing it within community really helps you get the sense of how you can carry this way of being in the world as well. So here we go with the second side. Forward and back. Gathering and opening and releasing. So that eventually you start to get this sense of the movement that's awakening within you, this deep primal sense of how this movement wants to happen, that it starts doing that feel of Tai Chi Cha just doing its own movement. You're just joining with it. Forward and release and back. Forward and back. And one more time. Gather, release, and as you open, stepping back. All right, now we're going to do carry the ball to the side, so I'll just come a little bit to my right, or your right, and here we go. Our wind up toward the right, sinking, which already sort of gets lightness on this left foot. It comes forward, heel comes down first, if you're able to kind of get that connection. That thing I was been showing when we do perpetual motion taffy, of kind of letting the toe come up first. So then we close here, toe comes up and you close. Then wind up again, left toe comes up, foot comes across. And once again, you know, as you come across to the left, just get the feel of that left, that back hand, that right hand being a little more substantial, and then closing to your left. And then we're going to come one more time across to the left. So wind up to the right, step off to the left. 1 and 2. And just find this movement and then closing to the left. Right foot comes in. Slight pause here again. Now you're winding up to the left and you step off to the right. So now your left hand is a little bit more substantial on the bottom part. And the third time, now your left foot is going to come in as you come across to the right. Slight pause and wind up to the left again. Step to the right. So even though there's a lot of like hand substantial coming across the bottom, there's a sense of holding that Nerf ball of energy as you come across the top, closing to the right. Pause, and one more time, winding up to the left, stepping out to the right. And across. And holding that energy ball as you come across. And third time, and closing. Nice. So now we come to our push-pull. So I'll come back to the center. And sinking into the right foot. As your hands come up, your left foot comes forward. And forward and back. So the back hand, in this case your right hand, is a little more substantial again. One of the ways that you might think of that almond shape that I've been talking about is as if you were pushing a wave, and as you come toward the end, you want to kind of help it come to its peak. So you're kind of sinking to get it going and then coming up and letting it kind of go curl forward out of your hand. So it's like the sink and then slight rise, and then as your hands come back, a little bit of a rise as well in the middle. So there's this sense of connection as you kind of engage with that energy and then release it out and upward. We'll come one more time, so back and then forward. Release, really let yourself feel that. And then as you come back, your foot comes up. And graceful resting position. And then the second side, right foot forward. So now your left hand is going to be a little more substantial. So your hand coming inward is a more of a gentle return that you have. You're not kind of pushing or pulling that wave in towards yourself, but just kind of getting the sense of engagement, nevertheless, in a lighter way as you come on the return and you come backward with it. Forward and then back. And just really getting the sense of coming from your Dan-Chen to help balance all that forward energy. And one more time forward, here we go. And back. And now we come to that very subtle engagement with energy through your fingertips. So palms up, and coming forward over the front foot with your upside down platter. Feeling the charge to your fingertips and then drawing back. So this is the yin part of it, but still there's an engagement. Drawing in from the farthest star. There's this place in the yin place that looks like less is happening because of its focus on receiving, but it's a very, very important place where this particular movement really captures an essence of what that yin energy is about, because it creates an energy response by its ability to receive. So just kind of feel how that drawing in from the farthest star comes in through your fingertips. Really is a very different way of connecting to and affecting the world around you, in contrast to that feeling of connection pushing out through your fingertips as you come forward. They're both so essential ways of being in the world. We'll come around one more time and drawing back and stepping back. And then the second side. Can you feel that charge that starts to lift as your hands come up? And then with that engagement already in your hands, now you can come to the fingertips. And then every once in a while, just come back through and check with. So how much do I know of my feet coming across the floor? If I bring a little bit more awareness with them, are there little shifts and adjustments that happen with how I commit myself to the movement, how much the floor is there for me, how much it connects through my legs into my pelvis, lower back and belly. So every time you come back around, a part of you that may have just been kind of languishing a little bit, all of a sudden goes, oh, you're paying attention to me, well then, and starts to join in the unfolding community of your movement just a little bit more. And one more time around, drawing back from the farthest star, feel that connection. It's your last chance to really get this, and feel it coming back and then stepping back. And sink. Okay, now we got to our toffees. So here we go. Just come across just a little bit. So this is our foundation toffee. So we wind up to the right, step across to the left. Feel that anchoring and then drawing in with your right hand and your right foot. Winding up to the left. Stepping across to the right. And drawing in with that left hand. Second time. Starting to get the sense of how that charge can build up between your forearms as you come across. This one doesn't have a real pause in between each of these movements. It's more that you just slow down, and then you sink and wind up again. And last time we come across and close. And then your anchor taffy. So now, as you wind up to the right, you turn on the ball of your foot goes forward and then falls in, so you turn in just a little bit more, and forward we come, and back. So that's the first half of it. Then you wind up to the right again and step sideways in your foundation movement. Wind up to the left, turn on the ball of your foot goes forward and then turns inward on the heel. Wind up again and across. And one last time, wind up, forward, turning, wind up again. And you might be noticing that the further you go into this, the more you start to be able to really feel that kind of seat of your pants dropping into the movement. And close. And then last, our wrist, next to our wrist circles taffy. So sinking, and then up on the balls of your feet. 1, 2, and then staying down, across. Sinking, so that one has a slight pause there before you go into the next one. Up, really feeling that rising, that's going to serve you well as you get that sense of connection up through your legs into your pelvis and the Dan Chen lifting. So up through the Dan Chen, the heels coming up last twice, and then staying down, winding up to the right, stepping off to the left. Slight pause and then sinking again. Heels lifting last twice, and then down, winding up to the left. This is one of the movements that really helps you get the sense of how to sink. We'll go one more time. Up, up, and then staying down. And winding up to the left and coming back across one last time. Okay. And then perpetual motion taffy. So this is where that slight lift with your toe and then your heel follows with your back leg. Just seeing if you can just drop into this a little bit more. Maybe slow it down just slightly. It's very common for a person in a class to start just speeding up ahead of their instructor just a bit. just to take this advantage of just kind of pacing yourself. And one more time across. Here we come. And back. And sinking. Now we come back to our new movement. So let's just see how you do with this. So sinking to the right, left foot comes forward, left hand comes up, right hand is palm toward the ceiling. Forward we go around the pulley from the front and the back, letting it twist open in your body. Now I'm going to start again. I'm hitting that. I just want to make sure you can see me from the front here. Here we go again. Forward and back. Drawing back through the elbow, feeling the connection through the palm of your hand, especially through the heel of your hand. Stroking those fingers around the pulley so that you can really get the full size of it, really get the sense of engagement. Forward and back. Letting that heel turn and ball of the foot turn as you go forward and back. So there's just a little bit more of a twist and opening in your pelvis. We'll come around one more time. And that hand waits on the right as your left hand comes around. And graceful resting position. And here we come with the second side, right hand up, left hand palm to the ceiling. And then as the movement, which really works into the shoulders, it's the one movement that really affects the shoulders a lot and actually prepares you for our next one, our light at the top of the head and the temples, by really kind of awakening you, awakening your shoulders to just allowing them to become a little more responsive and mobile. So it's just really feel how it works on your shoulders rather than your shoulders working. As opening happens and just exploring how to just let your neck and head and spine just have the freedom of how they want to move. And we'll come through one more time. So here we come forward and back through your elbow and graceful resting position. Now I'll just go back just a little bit so you can make sure you get the top of my head for this. So here we go, light at the top of the head, sinking, gathering up that energy. Feet stay flat on the floor as you come to the top of your head. Now you go down, you're going to come up onto the balls of your feet. Out once, gather the charge. Twice, flicking out, gather the charge. Third time, then come back in and circle. And hold, really look for what am I holding? How am I in this moment? How can I more fully inhabit the intentionality that awakens in this moment? And then out again. 1, 2, and 3, and go out and around, sinking, left palm uppermost, cupped by the right, up to your chest, down, slight pause, and we sink again. Come up to the temples. Feet flat on the floor. Now you sink and you're going to go up to the balls of the feet. Once, twice, 3 times. Bring that charge in with your hands. Circle. Down, around the back, up, forward, over the top. Find that sense of engagement. So it's not just a hand movement. You're actually doing something. And then coming to a pause. And then sinking again onto the balls of the feet. Slight heel lift. So that there's a real sort of lift and release, just like you were just doing in the wrist circles taffy. And then out and around. Left hand cupped. Up in front of your chest and down into your resting position. Wait for the charge to drop, and then we go directly into our cosmic consciousness pose. So left foot comes up, heel rests on the inside ankle of the right foot, hands come up, and just build right up from the bottom. And you'll find there's a bit of a circular thing where if you can really get the sense of your feet, how they are on the floor, then you can get a sense of how, even though your right knee is just slightly flexed or soft is maybe a better way of thinking of it, that it becomes a bit of a pillar that connects up through your pelvis, that has a sense of support from the left, and then coming up through your spine, up through the back of your neck, so that when you tilt your chin a little bit downward and look through your hands, there's a sense of how that connection comes all the way up from the feet through the spine, and then with the tilting down, your inner attention goes down into the Dan Chen, so now you're coming back down the front and inward, and that affects your sense of connection as you connect to the Dan Chen. It affects the sense of your connection back down to the floor again. And then you just let all that come down, and we come into just a bowing, letting gratitude really integrate our sense of what has been opened within us is also connected to it having a place in the world, that there is a sense of connection that gratitude gives us. Including my gratitude for you all coming. Thank you so much.